Hello and welcome. It is Monday, November 23rd, 2020, and this is Truly News. I am your host, Jason Van Sickle. As you start this new day, let's begin by increasing your knowledge and expanding your insights with a review of the many fascinating things that are happening around the world as we take a look at today's news. As always, we start with a look at the top news from across the country. And here are the issues that are leading today's news. Biden builds team, COVID hits hospitals, vaccines approach, and a new app leads blind runners. With less than 60 days to inauguration, President-elect Joseph Biden is continuing to build his White House team. On Sunday, Biden announced that he had chosen Antony Blinken as his Secretary of State. Blinken served as a United States Deputy Secretary and the Deputy National Security Advisor during the Obama administration. He is being tapped by Biden to rebuild relationships with countries across the globe and help to reestablish the United States as a trusted leader. In COVID-related news, new cases of the coronavirus have stopped making daily records, but now the number of hospitalizations are making new highs. On Sunday, the United States reported its 12th day in a row posting record numbers of COVID-related hospitalizations. In the meantime, the world begins to plan for vaccinations as several groups of vaccine developers near approval. The latest to announce a forthcoming vaccine is led by AstraZeneca and Oxford University. They say that their vaccine has reached a 90% efficacy rate. They are presently wrapping up late-stage trials. In other news, a blind man completed a 5K run this week with the help of a new app. Thomas Panic loves to run, but he got tired of slowing for guides who run beside him. So he contacted Google to help create an app. They developed a technology that uses cameras on smartphones to detect the lines on a running track and give directions to blind runners through headphones. And that is your top news for today. Now, in our look beyond the major headlines, let's start with the latest developments in science, technology, and space exploration. In science news, birds can identify each other based on the sound of their voices. A study published in the journal Science Advances by researchers from Berkeley reveals that a type of bird called a zebra finch has the ability to identify other birds based on the sound of their voices. The finches can pick other birds out of a crowd or from long distances given the specific type and way that they make a call. The ability is like humans who can instantly identify someone based on their voice. In technology news, facial recognition is not just for human use. Facial recognition software has been controversial when it comes to law enforcement. However, it has had some uncontroversial uses, such as being able to identify people for security access to devices. Now, the technology is being used to identify non-humans. The adaptive use of the technology involves identifying animals for research purposes and livestock for keeping track of herds of farm animals. In space news, COVID causes NASA to delay moon landing plans. NASA announced that plans to land humans on the moon may be delayed by COVID. The plan was to put people back on the moon's surface by 2024, but NASA's Inspector General says that may be difficult. The agency still plans to push forward with getting back to the moon and launching efforts to create a permanent moon base. However, those plans may be pushed back based on COVID-caused delays. And that is your science, technology, and space news for today. Now we look at the latest in health, social, and environmental news. In health news, drugs with questionable COVID effects get FDA approval. This week, the Food and Drug Administration approved an emergency authorization for the use of two drugs to be used as a cocktail for treating COVID. The drug baricitinib is a drug used to treat rheumatoid arthritis, and remdesivir is an antiviral drug. A clinical trial showed that the combination reduced recovery time. However, the study was limited and the recovery time declined by only 1 day. In social news, researchers find that online hate speech can be counteracted. A paper published as part of the 2020 Conference on Empirical Methods in Natural Language Processing outlines a process for analyzing large-scale data to better understand online hate speech. The research team developed an algorithm that analyzed millions of Twitter interactions to determine how hate speech can be counteracted. They found that organized efforts to counteract the speech can be effective. In environmental news, G20 leaders pledged to help address climate change. In addition to supporting poor countries in their efforts to deal with the health and economic fallout from the pandemic, leaders of the G20 group of nations also pledged to help those countries deal with climate change. In a release issued on Sunday, the G20 leaders said that they understood the need for all countries to address climate change, and they are dedicated to building a more sustainable future. And that is your health, social, and environmental news for today. Now it is time for our look at economic and world news. In economic news, leading index of economic indicators shows slight improvement for October. This week, the Conference Board released their monthly leading index of economic indicators. The index is a combination of 10 economic indicators that help signal if the economy is heading up or down. For October, the index showed slight improvement. The increase was the result of improvements in manufacturing output, better productivity, an increase in hiring, and a slightly improved stock market. In world news, Germany says that it may begin COVID vaccinations as early as December. Germany has announced that it may be prepared to start administering a vaccine in December. It was reported on Sunday that the German health minister stated that his country may begin COVID vaccinations before the end of the year. The vaccine is made by the German drug company BioNTech, which is partnered with Pfizer on a vaccine that applied for U.S. vaccine distribution earlier this week. And that is your economic and world news for today. To wrap things up, we take a look at your entertainment options with newly released movies, shows, and books. In newly released movies, today's movie is The Nest. Life for an entrepreneur and his American family began to take a twisted turn after moving into an English country manor. The Nest is now available for rental on various services. In newly released shows, today's show is I Hate Suzie. Suzie Pickles has her life upended when she is hacked and pictures of her emerge online in an extremely compromising position. Episodes of I Hate Suzie are now streaming on HBO Max. Finally, in entertainment news, our newly published book is Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man by Emmanuel Acho. This book is a look at some questions and concepts needed to address systematic racism. This book is presently number 3 on the New York Times nonfiction bestseller list. And that is your entertainment news for today. As always, we end our podcast with Hope for Humanity, stories about the goodness and kindness that people show each other every day. And here is today's story. From Boothbay Harbor, Maine, a random act of kindness. Recently, Susan Whitehouse was working as a community volunteer. It was the evening before the election, so tensions were high in the community like every town across America. On this evening, Susan was cleaning up the garden beds in a community roundabout when a car stopped right next to her. She didn't know what to expect because the roundabout was also a contentious issue within the community. However, to Susie's surprise, a woman got out, walked up, and offered her a hot chocolate, a donut, and a thanks for doing something to help the community. A random act of kindness from a stranger that meant a lot. And that is your news for November 23rd, 2020. Have a wonderful day.